Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're joined today by Steve Bradford. You know him well. Served in the California State Assembly from 09 to 14, was termed out. Now seeking a seat in the California State Senate. That is an open seat. Isidore Hall, the incumbent, is seeking a seat in Congress. And so my question for you is why, oh why, do you want to return to Sacramento?
I ask myself that every day.
Every single day.
But there's a lot of work to be done here in California, and I want to continue some of the great work that we started in the Assembly.
And I want to talk about your communities. Almost 1 million voters in significant portions of Los Angeles County, geographically diverse, economically diverse, ethnically diverse. You're knocking on doors. What are they saying to you, sir?
It's a variety. It all depends on where you are in the community.
Right.
When you're in Inglewood, they're excited about the football stadium,
Right.
but their biggest concern is that for renters, property, the rent is going up. For small businesses, they feel that the new businesses are going to come in and acquire their property, so they're afraid of that. Down in San Pedro, it's the homeless issue. So it's, depending on where you are at the time in Compton, it's the rise in crime. So
I want to talk about homelessness. This is such a difficult issue because I think Californians, and specifically Angelenos, are simultaneously compassionate, but honestly sometimes scared, because folks that are homeless, and homeless folks are appearing throughout our county, they can present themselves in ways that are a little different than what we're used to, and we're not really sure what to do and how to react. What are your voters saying about this homeless question in San Pedro, in Compton, in Inglewood, wherever it may be?
it needs to be addressed. They're astonished at the number of people that are on the street today. California has the largest homeless population, especially of women and children, than any state in the nation. And we have to make it a priority. And people like Supervisor Mark Ridley-Thomas has been fighting hard to move forward with this homeless initiative.
And let's talk about that, sir, because Supervisor Mark Ridley-Thomas of LA County has been pushing Sacramento to engage in certain legislation that will allow LA County to take some responsibility, and that includes through taxing measures, asking voters to pass certain revenue measures. Sacramento's not allowing that to happen. There was a discussion about taxing legal marijuana. Should it be legalized? That fell by the wayside. Yes, some money will probably come in through, I guess, a proposition that will rejigger Prop 63 funds, but LA County's in a tough spot.
We are, and we need to have a conversation with the governor. It's a lot of folks who've brought this issue up to him, and as I've often said, Governor Brown understands third world poverty very well.
Oh, yes.
But he doesn't understand American and California poverty.
Interesting.
And
even being a mayor of Oakland, where they've had their issues with poverty?
And part of why we have so many homeless people is because of a vote we took in 2011 at the direction of the governor, ending redevelopment. So it makes it harder to subsidize new development and affordable housing. And when we talk about affordable housing, we got to move away from the stigma of low-income housing. We're talking about working families where you have two incomes and they still can't afford to live in Gardena.
And when we talk about affordable housing, we know the governor has been looking to create a regulatory scheme that cuts through the red tape. He's not getting anywhere on this. I mean, folks on all sides are coming at him because it would reform CEQA in some ways, reform some labor and environmental laws. And so where do we go on that question? I mean, it's so hard to get affordable housing built without redevelopment. And then you have the second issue of a stringent regulatory environment.
These are the unintended consequences that many predicted would happen with the dismantling and just total abolition of a redevelopment. And we took the vote with the understanding that we would amend it, not end it. And
it's been 5 years.
It has, and we've seen the results of that. And we're not building new housing in California, and it's been greatly delayed.
I want to ask about housing most generally, because, and I've said this before on our show, when we think about the term affordable housing, we think about low-income housing. I'd like to talk about affordable housing, like in Gardena and in Englewood. We can't afford it. It's not affordable for good old middle-class folks like you and I because real estate prices continue to skyrocket, especially on the coast. In Gardena and San Pedro and Englewood, that's on the coast.
I look at South Bay cities. I've lived in the South Bay for the last 40-something years. I couldn't afford my home today if I had to buy it today. And I make a decent
Yeah,
living.
sure.
And I can't afford it. So we have to recalculate what we consider affordable housing versus market rate, and those are some of the discussions we need to have as well.
And what that's causing, as I understand it, is a pressure on rents.
Mm-hmm.
And rents are now going up. In LA County, we have a vacancy rate of under 3%, which is essentially no vacancy rate.
vacancies.
And so it's just, we can't win. We can't win. Can Sacramento do something, sir? Is this, or is it a market solution?
It's a combination. We have to bring everybody in the room. I always say we have to have a grown-up conversation.
Right.
We have to bring the realtors in the room. We have to bring the developers in the room. And we have to bring the elected officials in the room and understand that what we did with, like I say, some of the programs that we ended, we need to find ways to re-implement those so we can help developers down dirt.
The realtors did go in the room a couple of years ago. I think you were still there when I think at the time Speaker Atkins, or she was about to be Speaker, wasn't it a $75 dock fee that would help to fund affordable housing?
Exactly.
And the governor vetoed it. Am I right, sir?
Yes, you're right.
And so, okay, new Speaker, new Senator, presumably. Should we look at that issue again?
We have to. I mean, and my hat goes off to Tony Atkins because that was her
And
career.
she presumably will be in the Senate
Exactly.
with you,
Exactly.
presumably.
And again, we have to bring like-minded people together because this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a common sense, pragmatic issue of how do we get these people off the street, but more importantly, those who are now renting, how do we allow them to become homeowners? That's the American dream, owning a home.
And to complicate matters further, as I understand it, there are folks that do qualify for Section 8 vouchers, which allows them to rent an apartment. But in LA County, the Section 8 vouchers that they get from the feds aren't high enough. They don't provide what the landlord needs to even pay their mortgage. And so, the carousel keeps spinning.
There are some apartments that rent as much as $2,200 in LA. And
for just a standard, one
exactly.
bedroom.
Exactly. And who can afford that? I mean, I couldn't afford that.
So is this a Sacramento solution? Is this a Washington, D.C. solution? Is it a LA County Hall of Administration solution?
I think we all have to take ownership in this and try to find a way to fix it. Yes, there's some federal funds that could be made available, but also state and local. I just met with the realtors a couple of days ago.
Right.
And
I understand they're supporting your candidacy.
And one of the things I said, we have to empower local government to make some of these decisions on, again, where do we build property? How do we get it done? Streamlining that process. Yes, the governor's trying to move forward with his initiative, but like you said, there's a lot of pushback there. But
I'm not sure if any of the areas I'm about to describe are in the district which you look to represent, but there's a federal program known as Promise Zones. And I know there was a big conversation about how when LA initially applied for Promise Zone funding, not enough of the county received the designation. Ultimately, I believe South LA, significant portions of it, did become part of the Promise Zone. Any in your communities?
no. Council District 9 was one of the last to be put in there, and they had to fight
LA
for that.
City Council
yes,
District 9.
current district,
Right.
current Price's district.
Sure, who
yeah.
was in the state senate.
Exactly.
But it begs the question, though, will programs like Promise Zones or other federal programs either create catalytic consequences that can help your communities or get us thinking about other federal programs which we can access?
I think the more tools we have, the better off we're going to be. So I support Promise Zone projects. I also
What about getting your communities declared?
without a doubt.
Is that a Sacramento ask?
That's a federal, Sacramento can ask, but it's a federal government that creates those Promise Zones.
His name is Steve Bradford. He was a member of the California State Assembly from 2009 to 2014. He is now seeking a seat in the California State Senate, currently being vacated by Isidore Hall, who is running for Congress at a seat number 35, significant portions of Los Angeles County. The election, of course, is in November. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you for joining us on Charter Local Edition.